On a cold evening in Birmingham in 1890, a young, innocent man left a pub to go home. It was dark, and an unfamiliar group of smartly dressed men wearing flat caps got in his way. Suddenly, the gang started brutally beating the man with belt buckles. They beat him so hard that he fell to the ground and slammed his head against the pavement. Somehow, the man managed to get away to safety. He reported the incident to the police, but no one knew who was responsible for this brutal crime. A few days later, a letter was sent to the Birmingham press that stated that the crime had been carried out by the Peaky Blinders. This was the first time the world heard their name. My name is Georgia, you're watching All Time Movies, and with its 5th season upon us, I've looked into the real history behind Peaky Blinders. How well does the show measure up to reality? It's been hard to miss the success of the BBC crime drama about the Birmingham gangsters that were active back in the early 1900s. The series has been praised by critics for its stunning atmosphere, brilliant writing, and magnificent cast. Suddenly, hipsters everywhere are wearing flat caps again, and interest in Birmingham's history has increased massively. You can get Peaky Blinders tours of the filming locations and even visit themed escape rooms or bars, like the one in Manchester that almost got sued by Tiger Aspect Production for using photos from the series as a wallpaper. The bar is still there, by the way, just without the wallpaper. The series has won countless awards at the BAFTAs, the TV Choice Awards, the Royal Television Society, and many more. The series starts after the First World War and follows ex-soldier and illegal bookmaker Thomas "Tommy" Shelby. He's also the leader of the violent family gang, the Peaky Blinders. We follow the group's expansion and how they overcome obstacles that get in their way. Well, the solution is often violence. Lots of grim violence. The show's creator Stephen Knight was inspired by old stories his parents told him about things that happened in the 1920s. Apparently, Stephen's dad's uncle was a Peaky Blinder himself. However, the series is still fictional and is not completely faithful to history. To start with, the Peaky Blinders were active in a different time period. They started their criminal activities around 1890 and continued their business until 1910, when the bigger gang, the Birmingham Boys, took over. Sounds familiar, right? Yes, Birmingham Boys and their leader Billy Kimber are portrayed in the series, but I'll come back to that later. The real Peaky Blinders were a group of young, unemployed, working-class men who carried out illegal bookmaking, robberies, and violent assaults on innocent people. So, not really people to look up to. In 2017, the West Midlands Police released 100-year-old dusty mugshots of 4 real Peaky Blinders. The pictures were of gang leader Thomas Gilbert, Ernest Hayes, Harry Babyface Fowles, and Stephen McNichol. Unfortunately, not one of them has the surname Shelby, because the entire Shelby family is fictional, as are the other gang members in the show. Nevertheless, the mugshots also show the classic Peaky Blinders outfits, which the series portrays accurately. At the time of the mugshots, these gang members were jailed for lighter crimes like stealing a bike and robbery, but we all know that they were up to worse things than that. It's a common misconception that the name Peaky Blinders came from the use of their peaked hats as a weapon. In the series, we see them hiding razor blades in the peaks to then smash it across their victims' faces to blind them. But that's not strictly true. The real group didn't have the luxury of razor blades back in the 1890s. They used other weapons like knives, fire irons, belt buckles, and metal tip boots. However, the accepted origin of the name is not completely incorrect. Peaky does come from their hats. They were called Peakies and became popular in Birmingham and Manchester in the late 1800s. But blinders is a synonym for slugger, which is slang for fighters. Even though the Shelby family is fictional, there are still other characters from the series that actually existed for real. As I already mentioned, Billy Kimber from season 1 was a real person and used to lead the Birmingham Boys. Billy ruled the racetracks outside London in the early 1900s and was considered one of the biggest British gangsters at the time. He started his career as a gangster, but later in life went straight and became a businessman. He died in 1942 from illness, not by Tommy or any other gangster. Season 4 introduced the activist Jessie Eden. In the series, she visits Tommy's office to discuss what he can do to even out the pay gap between the men and women who work in the Shelby factories. When Tommy doesn't do anything about it, she influences hundreds of women to strike for their rights. Interestingly, Jessie was a real-life hero in Birmingham. She led 10,000 women on a week-long strike for equal pay in 1926. The real Jessie used to work in the Joseph Lucas Motor Components factory in Birmingham, and she was also a shop steward for the Transport and General Workers Union. Throughout her life, she was fighting for social justice and never gave up, no matter how hard it was. After spending a few years in Moscow where she helped women, worked on the Moscow underground system, and studied, she returned to England ready to fight her next cause. She was a key figure in the 1939 Birmingham rent strike, where 49,000 tenants striked. In 1945, Jessie was one of the candidates for the Communist Party in the general election, which she didn't win. However, later the same year, she was elected as a councillor. Even later, when Jessie was 69 years old, she led a protest against the Vietnam War. Somehow, I doubt the show will last long enough to ever show her doing that. If you're excited to watch Season 5 like I am, you've probably noticed the new character that actor Sam Claflin is portraying. The Hunger Games and The Me Before You star is playing Oswald Mosley, another real historical figure. In 1929, Mosley was made Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster in the new Labour government. He was young, well-liked, and people within the party considered him a potential Prime Minister. It's around this time in history that the 5th season of Peaky Blinders is set. Later in the 1930s, Mosley founded and led the British Union of Fascists. Even though Mosley was a monster, it's not too surprising that he is in the narrative, considering the rise of fascism is historically crucial to the 1920s and 30s. Stephen Knight commented on it further in an interview with The Guardian, where he said, "Given that we ended the 4th series with lead character Tommy Shelby getting elected as Labour politician, it seemed inevitable that he would come into contact with Mosley, and interesting to consider what both men might have in common as well as what marks them apart. Probably the scariest thing with the real Mosley was that no matter how crazy his beliefs were, he managed to get people to listen to him." Which of these did you find the most interesting? And are you as excited for Season 5 as I am? Let me know in the comments below. For now, I've been Georgia, you've been watching All Time Movies, and I'll see you next time.